One night, a woman standing by the roadside. She had no identity, no past. She whispered just one word, Mara. But that woman was the daughter of a billionaire who disappeared years ago. And now, she had come to reclaim a life she was forbidden to remember. The windshield wipers fought against the rain, but Lucas Weber didn't take his eyes off the road. It was late. Inside his pickup truck, there was only the growl of the engine and muffled sounds from the old radio. He had spent the day out on an urgent repair job, and all he wanted now was to get home and have dinner with his daughter, Lena. But then, in the darkness broken by a beam of light, a silhouette appeared. On the side of the road, a lone figure under the rain. A woman. She stood there barefoot, her feet buried in mud, soaked through a thin dress. Lucas slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded to a stop. Rain seemed to cry through the glass. After a moment's hesitation, he grabbed his flashlight, opened the door, and stepped out. The cold wind hit his face, and his instincts kicked in. This wasn't an ordinary night. The person in front of him wasn't just wet. It was like she had been cut off from the world. "Are you okay?" Lucas asked as he slowly approached. The woman didn't answer. Her eyes were huge. Not surprise, more like the echo of a forgotten fear. "I can help you," he said, lowering the flashlight toward the ground. "What's your name?" Her lips trembled. Then almost in a whisper came a single word. Mara. That was it. No last name, no where she came from, no story of what happened. Just that one word. Lucas took off his jacket and put it over her shoulder. "Mara, I can't leave you here. This isn't safe. Come to my place. I have a daughter. Warm place, food. Then we'll figure out what to do." She paused for a moment, then slowly nodded. They didn't talk on the way back. She occasionally looked out the window, as if searching for something in the dark. Lucas glanced at her, 1,000 questions running through his mind. Who was this woman? Why was she like this? And why was she so scared? When they got home, little Lena appeared at the door. "Dad, who is she?" she asked, her eyes fixed on Mara with surprise. Lucas knelt down. "We're helping someone, sweetie. Let's just focus on that for now, okay?" Lena nodded. "Okay." They gave Mara a guest room. Warm shower, clean clothes. But the woman was still silent. She had only said her name. Lucas couldn't sleep all night. He thought back to the missing person searches he had volunteered for in the past. He recognized those eyes. It wasn't memory loss. This was something else. A suppressed reality. The next morning, as the sun rose, Mara sat quietly in the kitchen drinking tea, staring blankly at the wall. Lucas sat beside her and gently said, "I don't know what happened to you, but no one here will force you to do anything. I just want you to know. You're safe here." Mara turned her head. Her eyes still held more questions than answers. But this time, there was something faint on her lips. Maybe a thank you. Maybe the echo of trust she hadn't felt in years. And Lucas realized then, this woman wasn't just lost. She was a secret. And that secret belonged to a past that would soon knock on his door. But he didn't know it yet. That a billionaire's daughter who disappeared in the summer of 2010 had come back, soaking wet, as a stranger at his doorstep. When the first light of morning hit the windows of Lucas's small house, everything seemed normal. But Lucas knew there was a foreign reality now creeping inside this home. When Mara came into the kitchen after her shower, she was still timid. Her footsteps were barely audible. The clothes she wore were clean and simple, handed down from Lena's mother. But the fear on her was still there, lingering like the night. Lena, sitting at the breakfast table drinking her milk, watched Mara with curious eyes. "Did you have a dream?" she asked with innocent childlike wonder. Mara paused. Her gaze shifted to Lena. "No," she said quietly. "I thought I had already woken up from the dream." Lucas stirred his tea, carefully watching every expression, every tremble. Finally, he pulled out a small notebook and pen from his pocket and put them on the table. "Can you write?" he asked gently. "Anything that comes to your mind. Words, places, maybe a date." Mara hesitated for a moment, then reached for the notebook. She opened the page and spun the pen between her fingers, then slowly started writing. Just one word, Rosenthal. Lucas frowned. "Is that a name?" Mara shook her head. "I don't know, but it echoes inside me." Lucas pulled out his old laptop from his bag and typed the word into a search engine. A few results came up. An architecture firm, a vineyard. But one caught his attention. The Rosenthal Foundation, known for children's aid work and long linked to the family of a billionaire. As Lucas searched for more details, Memories of the volunteer search and rescue teams he'd worked with years ago came back. He remembered a case file. Years ago, a case that never got solved, faded quickly from media attention, but with some pieces missing. A little girl of a wealthy businessperson who disappeared in 2010. Her name, Sophia R. She was 10, and nothing had ever been clear about the night she vanished. A chill ran down Lucas's spine. He looked at the computer screen. An old photo side by side, black and white, taken in front of a large mansion. And right in the center, a little girl with braided hair. That smile. Those eyes. Lucas turned his head and looked at Mara. The same eyes. Years had passed, but the resemblance was unforgettable. At that moment, Mara took a sharp breath, like a lost memory piece was stuck in her throat. I was there, she said. In that house. On that gravel road. In the garden with white roses. Her eyes drifted into emptiness. But then someone came, gave me a new name, told me to speak with a new voice. And I forgot everything. Lucas nodded. Someone hid you, he said. And this is not just a disappearance, it's a silencing. Mara lowered her head. But why now? Why, after so many years, have I suddenly started remembering? Lucas took a deep breath. Because sometimes time only unlocks some secrets when we're ready. That night, Lucas couldn't sleep. His laptop stayed open, still on the Rosenthal Foundation page. When he clicked on the Founders section, another photo appeared. The man's name, Richard Bauer. A familiar last name. A powerful figure in the business world, well-liked publicly for his foundations and donations. But Lucas's eyes stuck on a note at the bottom of the page. Richard Bauer was shaken by a tragic loss in 2010. The investigation into his daughter Sophia's sudden disappearance ended without results. Sophia. Mara. Could they be the same person? Suddenly Lucas stood up. All the pieces in his hands were falling into place one by one. But what was missing was why someone was still trying to cover up this truth. And more importantly, if Mara really was that missing billionaire girl, were the people who hid her still watching? As soon as Lucas woke up the next morning, the first thing he did was message some old contacts. A few people from the search and rescue team were still active and could access some archives with special permission. What he was looking for was just confirmation. He needed to know that the pieces in his hands belonged to the right picture, because his gut told him this was way bigger than it seemed. Mara was sitting by the window. Her eyes were fixed on the wet ground outside, but her mind wandered to a night many years ago. A woman's voice, the scent of lavender, a high-pitched scream, then darkness. Every time she tried to remember, her head ached, her stomach turned, as if her mind was defending itself. But some things had surfaced now, too strong to push back. When Lucas came to her side, he held a printed copy of an old file. Without looking at Mara, he spoke. Sophia Bauer. When she disappeared at age 10, she was wearing a lavender-patterned dress. It's thought she left the mansion late at night. Neither the camera footage nor the security guards gave proper statements. The case was closed a month later. The media forgot about it, but her family didn't. His eyes locked onto Mara's. And her father, Richard Bauer, still makes a special donation to the foundation every year on the exact date. The date? The day his daughter disappeared. Mara's lips parted, but she said nothing. Her hands were clenched into fists on her lap. That man, she said, I know him, but not like a stranger. Not scary. Like someone you can trust. Like my father. She choked on the last words. Her eyes held not tears, but turmoil. Lucas placed the file on the table. There's a detail in this file about the last place you or rather, Sophia was seen. Just outside the mansion, among pine trees, a small stone cabin. That day the security systems failed and backup footage was never found. But someone from the old team remembers a woman living in that cabin. Her name was never officially recorded. Just a nickname. Lena. Mara flinched. What did you say? Lena. Lucas repeated. Mara stood up, trembling. Someone whispered that name to me one night. Not in a dream. It was real. You are Lena now, they said. I couldn't remember my name then, but it was like a little girl's identity was left in my eyes. Lucas took a deep breath. Those who hid you didn't just physically take you away. They erased your name, your memory, your existence. They gave you a new life, for their own purposes. But why? Who was this Lena? Who silenced you? And most importantly, why have they left you alone now? Right then, the doorbell rang. Lucas and Mara looked at each other. Whoever it was, they had come too early. Lucas quietly headed to the kitchen and pulled a small knife from the drawer. Mara retreated to the corner of the room. Before opening the door, they looked through the window. Outside, a black-windowed vehicle was parked. Two people sat inside, their faces unseen but their body language professional, not ordinary visitors. Lucas cracked the door open. "Yes." The man stepping out spoke with resolve, but without threat. "Mr. Weber? We're Foundation officials. From the Rosenthal Aid Network. We heard there's a woman here showing signs of mental instability. We're here for her protection." Goosebumps rose on Lucas's skin. "This woman is my guest. I'm not a doctor, but she doesn't show any signs of mental illness. And this is private property." The man smiled faintly. "I understand, but we have suspicious reports that she is a missing person. If you don't cooperate, we may take legal action." Lucas slowly closed the door. He turned to Mara. "We don't have time," he said. "Someone wants you, but I will protect you." Mara closed her eyes, took a deep breath. When she opened them, the fear was gone. "Then we have to go," she said. "But first, I have to return to that mansion, to the place where everything I forgot began. There are the answers." As Lucas and Mara headed toward the old, ruined mansion outside the city, the air felt heavy. It wasn't snowing, and the sun wasn't rising. It was as if even the sky was watching what was happening, silent and judgmental. They didn't speak along the way. Both their minds were busy with details once ignored. When Lucas looked at the woman sitting beside him, he no longer saw someone lost, but someone ready to fight. A spirit quietly used to resistance. The mansion stood at the edge of the forest, almost blending into nature. The front door was rusted, and the stone paths in the garden were overgrown with weeds. But everything matched exactly what Mara had described. The stone pool in the middle of the yard, the white roses around it, faded now, but still there. Mara stepped carefully on the stones as she walked forward. She stopped at one point. "Here," she whispered. "I hid here." Her fingers pointed to the edge of a half-collapsed wall. "That night, there was an argument inside. Someone was talking with my father. Then my mother screamed. Doors slammed. I started running. This way." As Lucas looked around carefully, he spotted a decaying wooden door behind the wall. It had a carving on it. R.B. Richard Bauer. "Is this a secret room?" he asked. Mara nodded slowly. "No, it was my father's music room. But no one knew. Only I did because he used to play piano for me there." They opened the door together. The room was ruined, but a dusty grand piano still sat in the corner. Mara approached quietly. Her fingers reached out to the keys almost instinctively. When the first note played, something tightened in Lucas's chest. That melody. Incomplete, but like a heartfelt call. Mara pulled her hands away. "My father wrote this melody for me. That night, he played it for the last time. Then I remember nothing. Just a woman, with red lipstick, told me Sophie is gone now. You are Mara." Lucas's throat tightened. He realized then, this wasn't just an abduction. It was a systematic erasure, suppression, and transformation. Just then, a sound came from the back of the house, footsteps crunching on dry leaves. Lucas silently pulled Mara behind the wall. He gripped his knife tightly. Peeking from the doorframe, he saw two men in black jackets enter the yard. One held a radio. "They might be inside. Let's be sure before we move," he said. Lucas whispered to Mara, "We have to run." "Now." Mara nodded. But before leaving, she reached under the piano to a small drawer. She pulled out something, a silver necklace pendant, with a small inscription on the back, "To Sophie, Dad." As Lucas stepped out the door, they slipped behind the wall and headed toward the old service road on the other side of the house. The men were still inside, but now it was only a matter of time. When they reached the forest, Lucas was out of breath. "They're watching us," he said. "I don't know who sent them, but this is no longer just a memory, it's a threat. Your existence endangers someone's past." Mara squeezed the necklace in her pocket. "I won't run anymore," she said. "Everyone needs to know who I am, especially those trying to make me forget." Lucas nodded. "Then we'll fight this battle on their turf. But we're not alone. We'll gather support. We'll prove the truth. Because this isn't just your story, it's justice too." When Lucas and Mara got out of the forest and reached a safe distance, Lucas pulled the car over to the side of the road. They were both soaking wet, but neither the fierce wind nor the slippery wet ground had stopped them. There was no running anymore. Mara realized the pressure she felt wasn't from fear, but from years of suppressed anger. The silence forced on her by everyone was about to end. Lucas pulled out his phone and dialed an old number. A retired inspector he had worked with years ago, Clara Stein. Calling her was risky, but he had no other choice. When Clara answered, her voice was steady but cautious. "It's been a long time, Lucas. What do you need?" "A name," Lucas said. "And a life will be returned because of that name." After a brief silence, Clara said, "Send me your location. I'm coming." Within an hour, the three of them met in the back room of a small diner. Clara, with her gray hair neatly tied back, still carried the look of years of experience in her eyes. As she sat down, she turned her gaze to Mara. "Should I call you Mara or Sophie?" Mara took a deep breath. "I don't know yet, but the person I'm looking for is someone who knows who that little girl really was." Clara pulled a yellowed envelope from her bag. "Years ago, this file came into my hands. A secret statement about Richard Bauer's private security advisor. It never made it into official records because losses are covered up as much as fortunes. One of the documents inside was a statement from a house employee. On the gala night in 2010, Sophie was taken away by a woman, but the woman was not from the Bauer family. The description was clear: dark-haired, wearing red lipstick and black gloves. The same description matched Mara's memories perfectly. Lucas squinted at the document. Why was this statement hidden? Clara didn't look away. Because there was pressure to close the file. Not officially, but from above. Lawyers for the foundation, corporate lawyers, even some judges. No names, but money talked. Mara bowed her head. Did my father really try to protect me or silence me? Clara pulled out another document. This time, it was a draft of a will. Richard Bauer had prepared it before his death, but it was never enacted. The last lines read, "If Sophie ever returns, let her know I did not sell her. I protected her, and if this document reaches her, let all the inheritance she deserves go to the rightful one." Tears welled up in Mara's eyes. For a moment, all her doubts began to unravel in the lines of that letter. Her father hadn't abandoned her. He had only hidden her. But from whom? Clara closed the file. Taking this to court is still difficult with these papers, but the media. If the media chases the truth, everything changes. Lucas nodded. Then we talk to the media. If silence is their weapon, then our voice will be our shield. Just then Clara's phone rang. Her eyes froze on the screen for a moment. "This is interesting," she said. "A source sent a security camera recording to the local news station a few hours ago. From 2010. From the night Sophie was seen getting into a vehicle. This footage was never released to the public." Mara's eyes widened. "Can I see the footage?" Clara opened her laptop and played the video. It was black and white. A young girl, chillingly similar to Mara today. She reached out to a woman, then got into the car. But the most shocking detail was, the person opening the car door was a man. His face wasn't clear, but in a split-second reflex, he turned his head, and that profile, that look. Mara recoiled. "I know him. I don't know his name, but even then, I was afraid of him." Clara paused the video. "I'll match it with the facial recognition system. But Mara, we don't have time anymore. If you want to tell this story to the world, you can't wait for the right moment." Mara straightened up. "Then let it begin. The past's reckoning isn't just owed to me, but to many children. I won't just remember who I am. I'll make sure they aren't forgotten either." Lucas stared at her. "And I'll be by your side, no matter what happens, till the end." Clara stood up. "All right, so if you're ready, the stage is yours now." The new studio was cold. The lights were dazzling, but inside Mara, there was no trace of fear left. The microphone in front of her was the place where a voice suppressed for years would be born again. When the camera's red light came on, Mara's hands did not tremble. Only her eyes looked with a clarity that pierced through the darkness of years. The anchor turned to her and asked, "Sophie, or Mara, whichever you prefer, why did you decide to speak now?" Mara lifted her head proudly. "Because silence no longer protects me. It only silences me. And I am no longer alone." Then videos, documents, and witness statements flashed on the screen. A chain formed before the public's eyes. Each link broke a lie, revealed a truth. The name of the little girl who disappeared in 2010 was no longer just a rumor. It was now a documented, proven, spoken truth. After the broadcast, social media exploded. Headlines screamed, "Sophie has returned." Cracks began to form in the reputation of the Rosenthal Foundation. Former officials were questioned. Forgotten people were remembered again. But Mara's victory didn't echo in courtrooms. It resonated in people's hearts. Lucas and Lena sat at home watching TV. When Lena heard her mother's name for the first time on the news, she turned to Lucas. "She's still going to stay with us, right?" she asked. Lucas smiled. "She's with us now, Lena. Not just staying, but building a new life." And that life was written not with silence, but with action. Months later, an old school building was restored. A sign hung above it. Sophie Foundation, a roadmap for missing children. On opening day, people gathered. When the ribbon was cut, Mara took the podium to speak. She wore a simple dress, with Lucas and Lena behind her. Without looking at the paper in her hand, she said, "I was lost. I forgot my name. But what I truly lost wasn't just documents or memories. They made me forget myself. Now I'm here. And this foundation will return not only my name, but everything a child deserves." We are no longer invisible. A quiet applause rose from the crowd. Then everyone stood up. Lucas watched her from the corner, silent pride in his eyes. Lena rested her head on his arm. "Is she Sophie now?" she asked. Lucas smiled. "She is just herself now. And that's enough." That evening, the house was calm. Lena was doing her homework. Lucas was tinkering with his toolbox. Mara sat on the porch, holding her old necklace, remembering her father at the piano. When she closed her eyes, she could still hear the melody. But this time, the melody didn't hurt. It was healing. Lucas came over with 2 cups of tea. "Is everything over now?" he asked. Mara shook her head. "No, but I've started. This time, I decide my own life." "And the name?" Lucas asked. Mara smiled. "Mara Sophie Bauer. 3 words, 1 life. But above all, I'm free now." Lena shouted from inside. "The movie's starting." Mara and Lucas looked at each other. They smiled. And as they walked inside, the shadow of the past stayed behind them. Their story was now being written on a new page. And this time, the pen was in their hands.